With the latest on the National Guard shooting in D.C., I know you share my outrage and sadness that these young Guards people were targeted while serving and protecting us. We may not agree on the mission, but we all honor our troops. But I want to ask you, though, about Homeland Security's handling of the aftermath. Secretary Noem was on Meet the Press this morning. She said the vetting of the alleged gunman was Biden's fault, even though he was granted asylum this year under Trump. She said he had been radicalized in the U.S., even though the administration is using the incident to call for a pause in immigration from other countries. And she had this response when asked why her department is calling for so-called remigration after the attack. Take a listen.
On Friday, DHS posted, quote, remigration now. As you probably know, this term has been used in different situations, but including by the far right in Europe to call for the mass deportation of non-white immigrants. How specifically does the Trump administration define remigration?
Well, President Trump has been working towards cleaning up the mess that Joe Biden left us ever since he came into the White House.
But how do you define that word, Secretary Noem? How do you define that word?
Well, first of all, we have criminal illegal aliens we've been targeting since day one. We have removed millions of people from this country already just in the few short months that President Trump has been president by making sure we're going after criminal illegal aliens that are murderers, rapists, and criminals and getting them out of our country, bringing them to justice, and then encouraging people to go home.
I mean, what do you make of the administration's handling of the tragedy so far, Congresswoman? Obviously, the Secretary never explain what immigration or re-immigration is. But what do you make of their policy so far?
Well, thanks for having me. And also, I just want to give my condolences to Sarah's family and praying for Andrew and his family.
Absolutely.
Of course, they're going to blame President Biden for everything, even though he received asylum under President Trump. But I think they're handling it terribly. And also, it just reeks of racism. You know, their code words about third world countries, those are countries with people of color. Quite frankly, you know, remember he brought the South Africans here and other people are welcome, but it doesn't seem like people of color are welcome, but the code word is third world countries. Yeah,
the code word is third world countries, and I guess the white Afrikaners he brought from South Africa doesn't fall into that. I mean, but on the topic of immigration enforcement, the Washington Post is reporting ICE operations in your hometown of Chicago haven't been focused primarily on the worst criminals, as Trump had promised. Of the more than 6,000 people arrested in recent months, less than 70 were identified by ICE as, quote, high public safety risks, end quote. In the courts, they were never designated as that. Only 120 have been identified as having any criminal or arrest record at all. Bear in mind, people have been killed and injured in these roundups supposedly to keep us safe. What's your reaction?
He traumatized the Chicagoland area. Chicago, yes, but also Broadview is a suburb of Chicago. It was my district, the helicopter landed in, the car accident happened in. A mom that's been here for 20 years was taken away, and she has a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old. It's crap, you know, what they were saying. They were going after everybody, not just criminals, and they handcuffed Americans. Where the helicopter landed, they took out many black Americans from that building also. So he's just going after any and everybody. The criminal part is certainly not true.
Now, here in New York City, demonstrators held ICE officers at bay for hours yesterday in a tense standoff that seemed to foil a planned raid in Manhattan's Chinatown. According to reports, New York City police were dispatched to do crowd control and ended up scuffling with protesters. The head of NYPD, who President Trump has praised, told Homeland Security the raid was, quote, unacceptable, according to the New York Times. As someone who has seen this play out in your city of Chicago, do you have any thoughts of what's brewing in New York?
Well, hopefully not what happened in Chicago, because the Chicago police were dragged in, even though we are a welcoming city, a sanctuary city, but they were dragged in because of what was going on with ICE. And actually, I spoke to a Chicago officer that's high up, and he said that, you know, they have to serve and protect both ICE as well as, you know, the citizens of the Chicagoland area. So New York needs to be aware. New York needs to be woke. The police need to be ready. But, you know, I know New York police are used to a lot of different things, you know, so.
I want to get your thoughts on the situation in Venezuela. President Trump warning on Truth Social that the country's airspace should be considered closed. Now, even congressional Republicans have questions about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's role in airstrikes against alleged drug smuggling boats off the coast of Venezuela. The House and Senate have launched inquiries into a Washington Post report that Hegseth personally ordered a second strike on a boat to kill survivors of an initial strike. Where do you think such investigation could lead?
Well, first of all, he's quite incompetent for the job, and there's been no evidence. That's why members on both sides of the aisle are concerned. They've shown no evidence of drug smuggling, and innocent people have died also. And then to call for, to kill the two people that were on the side of the boat, that's against the Geneva Convention. So he's, you know, he's going against everything that has been put in place, but he needs to be investigated. What he's doing needs to be investigated, and he needs to show proof that these are drug smuggling boats, and he still shouldn't be dropping bombs on them.
And I know that, you know, you're in Congress, you're running for the U.S. Senate. Does it surprise you that some of the Republicans are even questioning Hegseth?
You know what? Even though they don't vote like it all the time, but they know some of this stuff is not correct because they tell us on the side. They may not always vote like it, but I just think they have gone so far in so many ways and so many things that even Republicans realize they need to wake up too. And that last election woke a few of them up, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. The midterms was a wake-up call.
Yes, it was.
All right. Thank you, Congresswoman Robin Kelly, candidate for U.S. Senate in Illinois. Let's turn now to the legal fight against some of the Trump's administration.